Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mack. And today, obviously, our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Orlando Magic in the 4-5, much anticipated 4-5 matchup, might I add, at 1 p.m. Eastern time today. And boy, oh boy, was it a sight to see. It was a sight for sore eyes to see this Cavs team just so cohesive and execute their game plan quite well. And those of you who have been followers of this channel for a while or who follow me on Twitter know that I dropped a breakdown of some of the keys to the game, and I honestly felt that they executed it to a T. We know that they forced Orlando to do something that they are very, very uncomfortable doing. That is shooting the three ball. We're going to talk about that at length today. We know that they clogged the paint, in executing that game plan. We know that although they had some turnover issues today, that was something to keep an eye on for me, because I knew going in that Orlando was the second best team at basically taking advantage of their opponent's miscues. And so thankfully that did not come back to bite the Cavs in the ass today, as they turned the ball over 17 times to Orlando's 12. A lot of carelessness out there, especially in the third quarter. But man, oh man, they did just about everything else well. They rebounded. They won the rebounding battle 54-40. The perimeter shooting, we'll dig deep into that. They attempted 30 shots today from three-point distance and only drilled 8 of them. That is good for 27% from three-point distance for you math buffs out there. But one of the things that I absolutely enjoyed, conversely, was the fact that, again, Orlando struggled, man. And they seriously struggled out there. Their best shooter, Jalen Suggs, as you're about to see here, it was a rough day, man. It was a rough day for one Jalen Suggs out there. Their best shooter at 39.7%, I believe, on 5.1 attempts, shot just 1 of 7 from three-point range today and 4 of 16 overall. They executed their game plan flawlessly, man. Executed it flawlessly. Just look at the way that they are deciding to defend out here. You see Donovan Mitchell's trying to cut off the driving lane right there, which is exactly what we game plan for. Look at the way that George Niang and Jarrett Allen are defending that. They don't give a fuck about these shooters out here. They do not believe that Jalen Suggs and company can do it. Look at the way that they're kind of blitzing. Yep, picking up right there. DG just has absolutely no faith in Jalen Suggs' ability to shoot, and it was clear as day. The only make that Jalen had out there was in this 4-on-5, right? Just fast break opportunity. Just absolutely a beauty. A beauty. This is exactly what you wanted your team to go out there and do. And then you look at one of their other good, and I use air quotes with that, shooters, and Gary Harris, who was basically shut out of the game as well. They held Gary Harris, who shot 37.1% on 3.8 attempts today, to 0 of 6 from the field, including 0 of 5 from three-point distance. Just flawless execution here. Look at that. Nobody cares what these shooters, and if they're taking shots, you just clog the paint and you force Orlando's drivers to beat you. And that was something that they were not able to overcome today, going just 8 of 37 from three-point distance, which is 22% from three-point distance. And this is the thing. They held Orlando to 32.6% from the field, including that 21.6% from three-point distance. That is insane, my friends. And we're talking about a team that does not like to shoot the three ball, obviously. They're not threatening at all when doing so. They scored the league's fewest amount of points off of three-point shots this season. Just 29.9% of their total points scored come from range. They like to get things done on the interior, where they score 51.8 points per game in the paint, which is 8th in the association this year. Today, they scored just 36 of their 83 total points in the paint. That 83 point score total for your opponent, you will take that any day of the week. You will take that any day of the week. And, we talked about this ad nauseum leading up to this matchup. I tried to do my best to cover it in my breakdown, how well they function within the paint, with having 5 players listed in the top 150 in terms of paint points. When it comes to the likes of Mo Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., Marco Fultz is up there, and then the two-headed monster of Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero, obviously. Now, we talked a lot about those two in particular, Franz and Paolo. And when you just watch Paolo's opportunities out here, it's clear that the thing that becomes clear to me is that they did not respect his ability to shoot the three ball either, which is why you saw him left open on a number of his attempts. And I actually felt like one of the key matchups that we were going to see today was Evan versus Franz. And I felt Evan versus Paolo, rather. And I felt that Evan did a damn good job defensively, making life hard on Paolo. And this is the thing, right? Dude is 6'10". He has a very, very good ability to drive the basketball. Both him and Franz can put the ball on the floor and drive into the paint at will and draw a ton of contact. But the one thing that I was really, really hoping to see today was exactly this right here. Evan giving maximum defensive effort against the likes of Paolo out there. And it was just awesome to see. And on his 3-point opportunities, they don't pay him a ton of attention because he's just not a great shooter in his own right. He'll get the shots up and he has the size and length to shoot over you, but he doesn't scare you, much like Jalen Suggs, much like Gary Harris, or anybody else on this roster in that regard from shooting from 3-point distance. It's all about those drives to the paint, and they were able to stuff them today. They held them to 83 total points on a very piss poor 32.6% from the field. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I am elated. I don't give a damn that they turned the ball over 17 times today. Yes, that's something that you have to clean up, but man, oh man, things could not have gone better for Cleveland in that regard. They just, JB, for as much flack as he has taken this year, I think obviously, you look at the scouting report, you look at the fact that they take the league's, 29th fewest 3-point attempts. You look at the fact that they score the league's least amount of their points on 3-point attempts. And you obviously say to yourself, oh, okay, well, they clearly don't like to shoot the three. So what do you do? You pack the paint and you force them to do that. And that's exactly what JB elected to do today. Freddie B says, what happens when the Cavs really get loose on them? All I can say is that the Cavs let them know, man. And Cleveland, for their part, we did not shoot, to your point, Freddie, we did not shoot too well today. 27% from 3-point distance. Didn't necessarily fare the greatest in that regard. Donovan Mitchell was just 3 of 8 from 3-point distance, though. We're going to talk about him in a minute because he scored 30 plus today, looking like the Donovan Mitchell of old. Max Strus just 1 of 5, Darius Garland 2 of 6, George Niang 0 of 4, and Niang in particular, that's somebody that I kind of want to talk about first here, and that's because without Dean Wade out there, there was going to be a huge emphasis on the George Niang minutes, specifically in reference to how he was going to be able to hold up defensively. The 3-point shooting, obviously, that is what he was brought in for. He was brought in to space the floor, to fill that vacancy left from Kevin Love the season prior, basically, after Dean Wade kind of failed to pick up the torch last season, dealing with the injuries that he had. But man, oh man, George, I thought he fared pretty well. And I think that, for as much heat as he has taken this season for his defensive effort and his inability to go out there and stay in front of some of the quicker forwards out there, I honestly feel like George has actually played quite well at points defensively, depending upon the matchup. And this is one that I was very, very curious to see today because during the course of the 4 regular season matchups that these two saw each other, George was targeted quite often. And in some of those games, Evan Mobley was not available. I believe Dean wasn't available in all of them either. But specifically in regards to Paolo versus George, Paolo went 10 of 17 this season while being defended by George Niang. So I was very, very curious to see how that right there would play out, just because I knew that those minutes right there that's something that you can take advantage of if you're an opposing team. If you can get off of George's body, right? If you can get past him, because we know George is not a little dude out there. He's got some weight to him. If you can move past him, you can score on him. But he ain't moving out the way for nobody. And so I felt that he held his own today. Paolo, like I said, he's going to get his. He can shoot over you with the size that he has. Yeah, with the ability to drive the basketball, he really can get past you. And I just felt that Cleveland collectively did a pretty solid job when defending him and taking away those driving lanes and forcing him out onto the perimeter, where he, along with the rest of this Magic team, is clearly uncomfortable. Now, I know the one thing that is not in Cleveland's control today was just the absolute bullshit calls that were going off, man. I know I can't be the only one. I saw a ton of people on social media talking about the discrepancy in terms of the way that this game was being officiated, because to be honest with you, I feel like this officiating crew is just completely garbage today. 25 personal fouls for Orlando to Cleveland's 21, but that really just doesn't tell you the story of just specific calls. It was ridiculous at times. I honestly felt like Cleveland kind of got the short end of the stick, but obviously with Orlando not being able to shoot the ball quite well, it didn't really matter, right? At the end of the day, Cleveland just said, fuck it. We're going to go out here and beat you guys either way, and we're going to execute our game plan. We know what you guys do well. We know what you don't, and we're going to exploit that. And that's exactly what happened today. Another portion of this is the fact that Orlando ended up taking 30 free throws. They took 30 free throws, guys, to Cleveland's 21. The outlier here is the singular fact that they shot just 63% from the charity stripe. They left 11 points on the board. That's big time, especially in a matchup like this where you have two of the NBA's best defenses, right? We know, I believe Orlando is the NBA's third rated defense, and Cleveland is up there. They're up there. I think they're 7th or 8th, right? And so for me, if you're leaving 11 points off the board, 11 freebies at that, that's just ridiculous. Tom K says another 8-on-5 against Cavs. Refs should have had Magic jerseys. I mean, maybe there were Magic fans out there. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but it does. That's pretty crazy. But the fact that they weren't able to take advantage of that makes me feel good, because any day that your opponent shoots 63% from the free throw line on a very high amount of attempts, it's usually going to bode well, especially combined with the fact that they did not shoot the ball too terribly well either at 33%, well, 32.6%. Tom K also says JB with early challenge is nice to see. Yeah, I think a lot of us, we forget this. The fact of the matter is that JB, he was always going to be judged by his coaching in the postseason, right? Yeah, obviously the regular season games matter to an extent, and having him go through the ups and downs, just like the players do, because a lot of people just don't like to give out slack or any type of any type of avenue for JB to kind of develop as well, because this is the thing, coaches develop too. It's not just players. JB was timely with his rotations. He knew when to challenge calls. He knew how to exploit the Magic weaknesses, and playoff JB could be a thing. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. But after, he's got to do this on a consistent basis. I need to see it at least 2 to 3 more games, because they're obviously, JB is not going to be the determining factor in each one of these games. I wouldn't necessarily call JB the determining factor today, but I think JB did a very, very good job executing this game plan. But again, this is against an Orlando Magic team that was pretty clear as day what they struggled at and how to attack it. So I need to see this a little bit more consistently. If we can get through this first round series and JB plays a major factor in, I don't know how, either the rest of the way, or if let's say this series goes 6 games. If JB can be a factor in 5 or 4 to 5 of those 6 matchups, yeah, playoff JB could most definitely be a thing. But here's the thing. Nobody's going to give a shit about that, because we already know, based upon what we have heard from Donovan Mitchell, it's Eastern Conference Finals or bust, right? That's what a lot of people are speculating. Damn the first round. But with that being said, you have to get out of the first round period, and today was an excellent first step in getting that done. I felt like Donovan Mitchell, coming off of just a season's worth of injuries, with one in which he deserved to be named in all to one of the all NBA squads, and he was disqualified for that for not meeting the 65 game threshold. Today, I felt like Donovan was pretty damn good, man. Like I said, 30 points on today, 11 of 21 from the field, 3 of 8 from three-point distance, and 3 steals. And one of the things that I feel like is not talked about enough in reference to Donovan Mitchell is his defensive effort. Since he's come to Cleveland, I really feel like he's played the best defense of his career. And we know that he was really looked at and viewed as a high-level defender coming out of Louisville. But he hadn't always done that consistently in Utah because of the just huge burden that he had to take on from an offensive standpoint. Playing under JB Bickerstaff, starting last season, I just feel like he's gotten the best out of Donovan in that regard. And now Donovan, he may not be viewed as a two-way player, right? But he has definitely held his own out there, and he steps up and makes plays defensively when called upon, in addition to the scorching offense. And one of the key matchups that I was really looking forward to, that I circled in reference to this matchup, was Jalen Suggs versus Donovan Mitchell. And I felt like Donovan Mitchell just got the best of him, man. Jalen had a really rough game. He had a rough game. And I thought at one point he was going to be injured after, him and DG got kind of tangled up, diving for a loose ball. But man, that is exactly what you want to see. Jalen presumably is going to be named to an all-defensive team after being probably the NBA's best guard defender during the regular season. That was definitely one that I had my eye on, and I felt like his ability coming in, I believe, at 1.4 steals per game, his ability to D you up, whether that be in the half-court defense or in transition, or just a lot of these different things that make an impact on the defensive end. Jalen Suggs can do it all in terms of playing guard defense. He's excellent at screen navigation. Shady says, Mack, who would you give MVP to for this game? That's a tough one. As much as I want to give it to Donovan, I think I got to go Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen had a lot to prove coming into this season. He had a very good regular season, but as we all know, it is definitely not something, all the narratives that were being just spewed in reference to him, it was nasty work, right? As the kids say, it was nasty work. But I felt like he had the most to prove coming into this playoffs, and I felt like he had just the best response. 16 points, 18 boards, that right there. Yes, the 18 rebounds, especially coming into a very different matchup, right? Coming into a very different matchup. We knew that although the traditional numbers do not say Orlando is a great rebounding team, they actually have the NBA's fourth best rebound percentage at 51.5%. And so they don't give you the opportunity to do a lot of different things because they're excellent at defensive rebounding and they make the most out of their offensive rebounds. So I knew that although Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein and company weren't going to be in this series, obviously playing for New York, that Orlando kind of gave Cleveland a unique challenge in their own right, just because of the physicality of both of those teams. And so I liked the matchup. I felt like Jarrett Allen could dominate this series, and this is a great start. Shady says, I love the physicality. I love the physicality this series has already shown to makes me so happy watching this team play. Yeah, I mean, after hearing Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen are soft 10 million times this past offseason, I was just so glad to see both of them go out there and combine for 29 rebounds. Awesome. Tune In Sports says Cavs not getting bullied this year. Certainly not in this matchup. I felt like they had an increased effort in regards to rebounding this year. Jarrett Allen just experienced, he just put up another double-double for the season and probably should have gotten named an all-star, but that was not the case. He still could finish on an all defensive team. And then Evan Mobley, although he missed considerable portion of this season, his rebounding has been much improved, especially on the defensive end. So yeah, to see both of those guys go out there and have a major impact in this game, especially Mobley's 2 triples, man, I don't think anybody was expected for that. That was awesome. I was not anticipating Mobley to just to knock down 2 in game 1. And I knew that Orlando was probably going to take a page out of New York's book and look to blitz the likes of Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And let's just get this out of the way. They executed their game plan very well as well in that regard. They were able to overcome the blitz. They couldn't do that last year because they just did not have an ability to space the floor. If Evan Mobley can consistently go out there and do that, even if the defense is not paying him any attention at all, eventually they're going to have to start doing so. It was the same thing this season with Isaac Okoro, right? As long as he starts to make them, it's because as long as he starts to make them, people will eventually have to go out there and defend you. And that's exactly how I felt going into this one. I didn't necessarily see Evan knocking down 2 of them, but when he has them, when they're available to him, if the defense is giving you the space, you better pull that damn trigger. And that's exactly what happened. And I loved that happened so early on in the game. Just phenomenal first half from Evan Mobley, and really just an awesome game from him throughout. But if you can do that consistently throughout this postseason, a lot of the people, the Tim Bontemps of the world, Bo Temps, whatever the fuck his name is, they're gonna shut the hell up and not compare him to what was the comparison that was given out? Man, why am I spacing out on this already? I'm Derek Favors. It was Derek Favors. He compared Evan Mobley to Eric fucking Favors. No, never again. Hopefully we do not see that anymore. But yeah. Tom K says Mobley is a stretch 4. Didn't you know? Yeah, I mean, obviously having the best 3-point shooting season of his career, but it came on low volume. But to see him go out there and just pull the trigger as much as he did today, 4 different times, you love it, man. You absolutely love it. But man, this is just a very, very good game, and it sets the tone for a pivotal game too. It sets the tone, man. Beast Girl says I was there. Great game, awesome crowd. Yeah, man, it was loud, and despite the technical difficulties from on TV, if you were viewing it that way and you weren't at the game, that was kind of funny to hear. The technical difficulties left basically just pure hoops. It just pure hoop sounds, whether that be baskets being made, feet squeaking on the court, guys calling things out, things of that nature. It was silent. And honestly, I didn't mind it as much as some of the commentary because, man, they were the broadcasting crew. They couldn't help themselves from talking about Donovan Mitchell and Donovan Mitchell leaving possibly, and that being such a huge storyline. So I didn't mind the technical difficulties as much. Thanks, Beast Girls. Beast Girls says, salute Mack, salute chat. Let's go Cavaliers. Man, I just feel so good about this matchup. And even when you look at the stat line and it suggests that guys like Darius Garland, who turned the ball over 5 times today, if you thought Darius had a bad game, fuck off. I mean, yes, there were definitely things that did not go his way. There were some turnovers where you can point to and say, hey, dude, clean this up a little bit. But I thought dude made some of the clutchest plays in this one. That triple that he made, he dished out 8 assists today and just constantly seemed to put guys in good positions. And he looked confident when pulling the trigger. He did go just 6 of 11 from the field today, but sometimes you're just not going to be called upon to create a ton of offense with your shot. Sometimes it's just simply being a threat to go out there and do so, or setting your guys up. And I felt like DG did that today. So again, if you felt DG had a bad game, I don't know what to tell you. You didn't watch it. And then you look at George Niang, who went just 1 of 7 from the field, including 0 of 4 from 3-point distance. Despite that, Niang was a plus 13, and a big portion of that was, one, his defense. And one of the things that will not show up in the stat sheet is the fucking grit and toughness that this guy he constantly shows. That, to me, even with the added spacing that he provides, even with that ability that he has to space the floor out of the power forward position, which is key, right? It definitely gives you, it definitely unlocks a lot of different lineups with one true big out there. Even without that, him adding that toughness out there, which is something that people have constantly complained about Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley just not having, his vocalness and just not taking shit from people and not being punked out there. I think that's huge for the mentality of this team, especially coming off of last season's series. So I absolutely love that. Um, the thing to me is Niang has to start knocking down shots to justify the high level of minutes that he receives, though. He played 25 minutes tonight. I don't have a complaint with that, but I do feel like there could be a point in this series if his shot just does not start falling, that maybe you hand a little bit of his minutes to a Marcus Morris, somebody like that, because we know that Morris has shown the ability to knock down the three-point shot, and he is a better defender than Niang. So that is one thing that I can't say. If Niang does not start knocking down shots, you might want to start handing some of those minutes off. Let's talk about rotation, shall we? JB basically played an 8-man rotation tonight. He definitely gave the most bench minutes to Niang. Levert, yeah, he was so-so. As Tunin asked down here, how you felt about Levert. I'm not gonna lie here. I put some money down that Levert would at least be able to crack 7-8 points. He was not able to do so, but the thing is, you don't have a lot of other options, right? Levert is a solid creator. He can play make when called upon, but the shot just clearly wasn't falling today. He didn't attempt a ton, just 2 of 8 from the field today, but he did come in clutch. That's the one thing that you can always count on him in these big moments. And even last year's playoff series against the Knicks, Levert was one of the only players to consistently show up in that series. He wasn't perfect, obviously. None of them were, but Levert was one of their best players in that series last year. And I had him down as one of my X factors coming into this one. I still truly believe that, due to his ability to create, due to his ability to be a two-way player out there. It's going to come up. It's going to continue to make his minutes impactful out there. Very, very similar to Niang in that regard, especially when you don't have a Dean Wade available. The one real big omission today was Sam Merrill, who played just 4 minutes. And look, we knew this. We all been clamoring for Sam Merrill to get postseason run, but when rotations shorten like this, there's only room for so many guys to make an appearance, right? You have your starters. That is a non-negotiable. You're not going to move that in. You're not going to change that like you did last year. JB is not going to experiment with his starting lineup. This is what we have. It's Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Mack, Strus, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. That is your starting 5. That bench unit can change from game to game. Levert, without Dean Wade available, is going to get the lion's share of minutes because he is the only power forward really truly on the roster that is capable of knocking down a 3-point shot with a high enough volume to actually scare defense. So he's going to get the bulk of the minutes off the bench. Caris LeVert, due to Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland probably going to be seeing high minute totals, he may not get his typical 24 to 26 minutes. And so there will come a game where he has a big showing, but his minutes are probably going to fluctuate just as much as Niang's. And then that 8th spot, Isaac Okoro kind of getting banged up today. That was not something that I had on my bingo card, but he plays hard and hopefully he'll be okay. But that 8th spot where Okoro is listed at, basically, that's going to be him versus Merrill in regards to minutes. And it could be heavily matchup driven. If the Cavaliers are fortunate enough to make it out of this series, Okoro may not be called upon as much. It could be maybe you need a Tristan Thompson to spark some of the rebounding out there. Clearly, that was not the case today as they finished with 54 boards, but I don't know, he might be called upon. Okoro getting that tech, yeah, I mean, clearly he was bothered, right? It was a little ridiculous, but I mean, yeah, I'm not pissed about it. X Factor says they are gonna eye in on Levert off the bench to try and keep the bench from creating a spark. Yeah, I mean that makes sense from a game plan and execution standpoint. When you know that Levert is your only true creator off of that bench, you're going to attack him. Although I did feel like Levert had some open looks today, he just couldn't get the job done. He couldn't get shot. He could not get that shot to drop, but it ultimately didn't cost the Cavs. but that bench only contributed a grand total of 14 points. You can't have that every single game because you're not going to hold Orlando to 83 points every single game. You cannot hold your opponent to shooting just 32.6% from the field. That will not happen every game. They're going to bounce back. They're going to adjust. Jamal Mosley and company, they're going to figure some shit out. And so you do have to get more production from your bench than just 14 points because you can't rely upon your starters can do the bulk of the heavy lifting every single game. Somebody will have an off game. Uh, Freddie B says, yes, they will. Magic can't score. I mean, they're not an offensive juggernaut, but this is the thing, man. The Magic are here for a reason. They are very, very good at scoring in that painted area. However, Cleveland is also very good, conversely, at defending the paint. But if you think that they're going to not be able to score more than 83 or shoot better than 33, basically 33% from the field, that ain't going to happen. They're probably not going to fare any better from 3-point distance because they just don't shoot threes. But Paolo and Franz are top 50 in the league in terms of paint points, and they are excellent at driving the basketball. They're excellent. Paolo specifically is excellent at drawing contact. As you saw today, they shot 30 free throws. They will shoot better. They will shoot better. They're not necessarily a great free throw shooting team, but they draw a lot of contact. They get a lot of those opportunities via those drives. And so I do not expect that Cleveland is going to be able to replicate this very same effort every single game. But today was a great start. This series by no means is over. It is not over in the slightest. Magic will respond. Same way that, any other coach would after seeing what happened to their team. I can't just go out on a limb and say this is going to be the case every single game. I have to give them that respect. They're here for a reason. They have the number 3 rated defense in the league. They have a first-time All-Star who led his team in points, rebounds, shots, etc. Was the youngest rookie to ever do that. And I think they're going to bounce back. But that said, this is a damn fine effort from the Cavs. I felt like JB deserves a ton of credit. I feel like really this entire team deserves a ton of credit. But if I had to give my best player of the game, it ain't Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to give it to Jarrett Allen. Donovan was great today, but if I have to give an MVP out, it would be Jarrett Allen. He deserves all the flowers after all the shit that was talked about him, stemming from last season's playoff run. And then we look ahead here to game 2. Hopefully they can keep this effort up, but man, this felt good. It felt good. Felt really, really good. Freddie B says, unless Hudo Turkoglu walking in the door hitting threes, they're going to have a hard time keeping up with this. Yeah, I mean, they shoot the league's second fewest threes. They score the fewest amount of their points in the association off of 3-point attempts. They're going to have a hard time keeping up if they can't score in the paint, but don't count them out. That's all I'm saying. Don't count them out just yet because they are a team that is a pretty resilient, same way this Cavaliers team is. But if Cleveland has it going on, because this game could have been much worse. It could have been much, much worse if Cleveland was able to knock down the 3 ball. This could have truly been a blowout, but it wasn't. And so I do not expect, just the same way I don't expect Orlando to shoot so poorly in game 2 and beyond, I don't expect Cleveland to shoot so poorly from 3-point distance. But if they don't, they've proven that they have a real way to get out of this series. One of the big keys to winning this series that I talked about prior to was the fact that they just basically needed to knock down shots, as simple as it sounds, because they just did not have the ability to do that last year, nor were they really any true rotation pieces outside of Donovan Mitchell, Karis LeVert, and Darius Garland who could do that. That has completely changed this season, right? With the addition of Mack Strus, with the addition of George Niang, with Sam Merrill breaking out, and Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro having the best shooting seasons of their careers. Evan Mobley, throw him in there. things have changed a lot. You have the spacing available to you, and now all that's left to do is to start not knocking those shots down. Chaz Orlando says, I'm happy we finally saw a good inbound play at the end of the first half where Max got open in the corner. Yeah, I mean, JB drew it up, drew up quite a good, inbounds play in regards to that. And so that's not something that you have seen quite often this year with regularity from him. But as I started this podcast off by saying, coaches develop too. And maybe as I think it was Tom K that said this, playoff JB, right? Playoff JB could certainly be a thing, just like playoff Jimmy or something like that. But we have to see it with a consistent basis, right? Chaz says, I'm hoping he's been saving them for the playoffs. I mean, me too, man. Me too. But got to continue to do this consistently. And I think he'll start to really change a lot of minds. But again, for this team, it's probably Eastern Conference Finals or bust in regards to JB's job. I don't necessarily feel like if we get out of the first round and we have a competitive second round series, I don't necessarily feel like he should be fired, especially considering the fact that they may have to take on Boston or Miami, whoever wins that series. But let's say they take a second round series to 6 or 7 games. I don't necessarily feel like against those opponents, I don't feel like JB should be fired because I feel like progress will have been made. But my opinion doesn't matter. The opinion that matters is Donovan Mitchell. And if Donovan Mitchell doesn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this season, I don't know what's going to happen. Shit could change, but that is a conversation for a different day. Today, I'm going to bask in the glory of this brilliant game 1 performance. And man, I cannot wait for game 2. That said, as I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to join the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com. If you're watching this video right now, do me a favor, hit that like button, man. Cook those books for me. Help me beat the algorithms here a little bit, because there's like a ton of people from the Cavaliers community probably, and people who are not, right? A ton of podcasters, a ton of content creators that are no doubt going to be discussing Cavs. So help me separate myself from the pack a little bit. Hit that like button. If you're watching for the first time, consider subscribing. You never know what you might find on the channel. Sometimes I do in-depth breakdowns like I did to begin this series. I'll be dropping a ton of NBA draft content. That's probably going to come out in the next couple of days. I've gotten all the scripts written out. I've already gotten one video finished, but I don't want to release it because I don't want any bad juju or bad luck put on this team. I don't want to signal to myself that I'm ready to just get the playoffs over with, because I'm not. I'm enjoying this shit, especially after today. But all I'm saying is you can expect the draft content to come out just like last year and the year before that over the next couple of weeks. That said, go Cavs. Have a good day.